I look like Santa Claus with the white one.
I just realized that we do you reckon we should update the logo with me having a beard? Is that my identity? Because it's my identity now, isn't it?
I don't know. You haven't had a beer for that long yet, man.
Yeah, I can't say it. It's like, but you've been on and off, dude. What are you talking about?
I
Do
mean,
you
I've
think
had my beer for ages.
your beard is officially ages, Curtis? It's like the way I view ages is like years.
Right. Well, I've had it for at least 8 months.
Yeah, come on, guys. You're an amateur. You're a beard amateur.
But ever since my channel has been around, I've basically had a beard for the 3/4 of my channel's existence.
No, but you're reverted. You
only shaved my beard.
You shaved your beard for like 2-3 months, didn't you?
No, I only shaved it once and then instantly grew it back.
Because everyone hated it.
I didn't even know why I grew it back. I don't know. I just like the look of it.
You just felt you look too young without the beard.
I don't know. I just thought it looked better. That's about it.
My eyes are so itchy recently because of like this weather. Because I have hay fever. I'm afraid I'm just going to start crying during because I just will scratch my eyes. So if I scratch my eyes, you have to call me out, okay?
Okay, I'll try my best.
Okay, so you're not going to do it. Let's be real here. We'll be in some deep conversation, so it's fine.
Yeah,
I'll just sit here. It's fine.
Just let your eyes bleed. It's fine.
I mean, they're ready to bleed right now, Curtis. Let's just say that. All right, Curtis, I believe it's you're odd, I'm even. So you want to do the introduction?
17, right? All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of Broken by Concept. I'm Coach Curtis. This is Nathan Mott.
Coming at you in my prison cell.
Yep, we got Nathan's prison cell. A beautiful, nothing else in there but a bed and a desk and a PC.
I like in yours, you got like color, like you got some orange going on.
Yeah, I got a nice bookshelf.
It's literally 4 walls and my bed and my toilet's in the corner over there. That's it.
And see that little thing behind you? That's where the food comes through. So people shove the food through that little hole there.
Wait, this one here?
Yeah. So that opens up. It's like 2 slits, and people slide. So there's a plate. You slide a plate through there.
That's right. Because this door here has no like thing, you know. So.
Yep. And I never see Nathan, even though we live together. His room is just locked off.
Literally, you can't. You literally can't open that door. Curtis is the only one who have access to the key for that door.
So I want to try something a little bit different in new episodes. We had some amazing.
It's not so much something different, Curtis. I mean, we just had great comments in our comment section from our BBC listeners this last episode. I mean, to be honest, we weren't really planning to have that conversation that we had. It just sort of popped up, right?
Well, it is something different because we haven't done this before.
Okay, I mean, it's sort of something different, but I think we should be discussing this sort of stuff anyway. You know, this is what the podcast is all about.
Yeah. So what we're going to be doing, I mean, we saw amazing replies to the comments, and rather than just kind of ending that discussion there, in order to have a more back and forth and have an actual discussion, I thought it'd be good to spend a little bit of time at the beginning of each episode to reply or like kind of add a little bit of color to the comments you left at the bottom of our last episode. And one of the it's on YouTube.
Podcast. So if you're curious about what we're talking about, go to our last recent episode, YouTube comment section, and that's where the what's it called? The wisdom of our BBC listeners is bestowed upon us.
Yeah. I think we had some really awesome ones, didn't we, Nathan?
Yeah, definitely a lot that made me think. I was like, oh, actually, I was probably talking shit most of that time. Or I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like, we can expand on that, which is what we want to do now, right? So what's the first one, Curtis? Which one do you want to expand on?
Well, one of the topics we covered was the complexity of the game. And one thing I think we should... Yeah, complexity of League of Legends. And one thing I think we could have done a better job of was actually defining what we mean by complexity, and then kind of starting from there. And then there's also another part where we spoke a little bit about the difference in complexity from chess to League of Legends. And there was a few nice little comments that I want to kind of go back and forth on that one. But I guess to clarify things, I guess 2 starting points is I actually looked up the definition of complexity, and there's actually apparently there's no one unique definition of complexity, but just I found a very nice, concise one. I'll just paraphrase it. Essentially, the term is generally used to characterize something with many parts that interact with each other in many different ways to bring out something that's greater than the sum of its parts in a way. But the way I interpret complexity in League was that there was just a lot of variables and things interacting with each other in real time to create other things. It's just a constant growth of continuing things interacting with each other simultaneously across the map in every single second. And the other little thing that I wanted to talk about was actually complexity doesn't necessarily mean it's harder. Just because League is more complex because it has maybe more variables than something like chess doesn't necessarily mean it's harder, which initially for me it didn't make sense. But then when I thought about it more, it makes perfect sense in relation to chess, because chess, it was a really amazing.
One of the comments that stood out to me for chess is that the simple difference between chess and League of Legends, you have all the information presented to you for chess. I mean, you can literally look at the other person's board and be like, well, this is what they've got. And League, we have fog of war, which means that we are missing a lot of information. Obviously, the jungle is there. You don't know where the people base. You don't know whether they're stay on the map. You know where people are roaming.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have all the information. And that ties into one of your favorite quotes, Nathan, which is League is an information-based game.
All it is.
And the more information you can process and the more information you have, there's two aspects to that. There's the processing of the information, and then there's the actual acquiring of information. So there's actually two things there. But both of them, both the acquiring and the more total information you can process, means you're going to be able to make better quality decisions every single time. Whereas chess, you have it all, like you said. You know what all the potential variations of what that person can do, but there are so many. And then you have to use the information that you have to create the best quality decision. But because there's so many possible things, and you got to think multiple steps in the future, it becomes incredibly hard. Like chess becomes incredibly hard. So I think chess is a perfect example of how something can be very, I would say, less complex, but probably even more difficult in a different way.
How far in League, in terms of time frame, do you think you're thinking ahead given a certain information? What's the max? Do you think you're never thinking more than the next objective, right? Like, I mean, unless your whole game plan is to fully scale, but even then, like you probably never longer thinking more about 5 minutes ahead.
Well,
but League's more about time. Chess is more about moves, because you could theoretically end the game in the next 2-3 minutes. Am I right in saying that?
In League?
No, in chess. But League, you sort of can, but not really. I mean, you can't, at the end of the day, at 7 minutes, you can't end the game at 10 minutes. Impossible unless they're open. Do you see what I'm getting at, Terrificator?
Okay, then. Well, to flip it back on you, Nathan, say you're really ahead on a chess. Let's say you get ahead in the early game, Nathan. Let's say you're playing Heck Room. And maybe you have a really good you do like 2 full clears, you get your level 6, you maybe get a successful gank off at level 6.
Okay, actually, this just thought now. Actually, you need to think about the immediate right now, like clearing your jungle camp in a way. But in chess, the game's done, right? So it's like I don't need to think about the past or the exact moment, the present.
Well, no, I want to ask what you do specifically. Then, okay, let's just say you're in that exact situation. You're not really thinking. You only fleetingly think about your path. Like, it's not like you're active with the entire time you're doing your jungle path. The entire time you're thinking,
yeah, I have like a direction I'm going, and then like I'm ready for information to go to another direction really quickly.
Okay, so how do you come to that decision?
By collecting information. Like, so let's say, for example, my mid lane, I'm doing Raptors. My win condition is top. I need a path top, but there's heavy trading mid, and I need to suddenly go mid.
Okay, so why do you think the win condition is top? How far in the future have you thought about?
I've thought about the next.
Because don't you have to think about the future?
Yeah, I've probably thought about that's. I mean, I'm thinking about breaking that tower, so I'm thinking about the next like 2-3 minutes.
But you're not actively, because this is the weird thing, Nathan. When you play League, that's why I was asking you. The way I view it is, I like fleetingly think about the future. I'm not like actively visualizing like every single second.
Yeah,
What's gonna
my question was how far in the future. Like, for example, okay, let's say you're Oriana, you just hit level 6 with your ultimate. What's your usual next steps of thinking?
Well, so in some games on some champions, I will be thinking in advance about I want to contest that second blue buff, or I want to contest that Rift Herald on spawn, or I want to start this dragon on spawn, or on as soon as I get the and sometimes that be like 2 or 3 minutes. I would say 2 or 3 minutes max.
Probably max, right? That's
max,
right.
Yeah. Oh shit! I just spilled water on
work, Curtis. There goes the keyboard. There goes the microphone. There goes the $3,000 Coach Curtis setup.
Anyway, so I found that really interesting. Chess being chess is less of an information-based game. It's more of a decision-making game based on experience and knowledge. It's more of a knowledge-based game, isn't it? A knowledge and a decision-making game, purely decision-making based off knowledge, rather than League is a game where it's information-based, but it's like guesstimating, a series of guesstimates and estimates. So think about it. I'm playing mid right now. I can assume, given what's happened in my previous experiences, given what I know about that champion's jungle pathing, given the way this person is playing based off his itemization, given the way,
rough idea about what's going to happen.
You have a rough idea. You just make a series of guesstimates or estimates to determine what you think may be the best decision in that moment. But I don't have all the information, so I don't know, right? I don't know what the best decision is. I'm just making a guess in my own estimation based on what I can currently process. So I found that quite interesting. Now, there was another comment talking a little bit about one of the other aspects we spoke about in terms of complexity, Nathan, of League, was the fact that it has this very unique snowball nature.
Which is very unique. Literally the only, if you compare it to all traditional sports, I mean, there is aspects of Snowball, but there's nothing as concrete as like, okay, you've died level 1 in League of Legends. That means that person now has 300 gold for the whole game.
Well, this is where some people came up with some great examples. One of them was MMA or boxing. If you punch someone in the eye or something, right, or that guy's eye gets injured, his level of play fighting-wise is going to be altered for the entire game.
Actually, that's true. I guess that's Snowball. Isn't that?
It is Snowball. It is Snowball oriented in a way. Yeah. The other one, there was another one here. I wrote another few. These are not necessarily sports, but another one was comedy, where if a comedian in stand-up comedy were to say a joke, and maybe the first joke or second joke, both of them made the entire audience crack up. Even if they told jokes that weren't as funny, later on, or like the series of jokes after that, because people are all happy and they've already laughed and they probably trust the comedian more, they're more likely to laugh about things that aren't as funny.
That's right.
So I would say there is a snowball thing there.
Yep.
Poker is another one where if you get a really big stack in poker, you can actually use that advantage or use your stack to play more aggressively and bully out opponents and play more risky moves or whatever. So I would say there is a quite snowball oriented, obviously not to the same extent.
I mean, I've experienced many times. Let's say I was playing poker and I did have a big stack. There's an aspect of complacency there that actually hurts me really hardcore. Because then what happens is like you got a big stack, and then and I think this applies to League definitely as well, right? You're super far ahead. It's like, okay, like I can go for this risky play. You said risky play there, and then that mistake happens, and then starts snowballing in the opposite direction for you, and then the next bad play happens, and the next bad play happens, and then suddenly your stack's gone. You're on the same as everyone else.
Yeah, and the reason you get complacent, right, is because you think that you don't think that it's a free win, but you drop your guard, right?
It's like even for boxing as well. It's like, okay, he's injured. So, it's like, oh, you might think it's like suddenly that means he's not going to throw a huge shot at me. But it's like he can just like literally just for a very short period, like, a second wind, bam, he's like back to normal, Then obviously the second wind's going to die off soon. But there's that aspect of it as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. So to say that, I say the snowball-oriented nature of League is another one that gives it that extra bit of complexity. Again, the reason I'm calling it complexity specifically is because it's a whole nother variable. It's another thing that you need to consider in the process of winning a game, right? It's not to say it's the one contributing factor. It's just one of the many contributing factors that make League quite a complex game because there are so many variables. Now, the last thing, Nathan, that I found, and this is just on my end, you may have some things that you wanted to point out, but one of the other ones I got was from a guy named Philela, and he sent me this DM. I'm going to basically paraphrase what he said, but essentially his point was that underneath threats, or maybe not even in relation to fundamentals, just as an absolute key factor to League and performance in League, is the mental state and level of focus of players. Now, I never thought of it like this. Now, I just came up with this analogy just before. Let's just say, actually, before we go into this analogy, let's just say, keep it League related. Let's just say you're heading into a game and maybe you're not in a right mental state. Maybe you're feeling a little bit tilted from the last game. Maybe you're feeling a bit low energy, low focus. Maybe you're angry, frustrated due to some outer game reasons, whatever the reason is. You're just not absolute focused. Or maybe you're just incredibly intimidated because of the opponent you're versing is on a win streak, or they have a high win rate or whatever.
He's a smurf.
Or a smurf, right? This can literally impact not only the amount of information you're going to process, but it can actually decrease the ability of your actual ability of being able to process the information in the first place. And you can actually perceive the information or the variables in a differing way. So you may actually, in theory, against another opponent, when you're extremely clear and have clarity, think that you win the matchup level 1, or can get pressure level 1, or can take even trades, or even maybe minimize to 1,300 gold. But maybe because of this mental state you're in, or you're incredibly intimidated, pure psychological, it can change the way you interpret these variables. And maybe you're going to play incredibly defensive and just like lose harder because you just like playing in a suboptimal way, or a way that you wouldn't have otherwise played.
I mean, there's so many aspects of that. I mean, you always would talk about it for you with versus certain pro players in your solo queue games. You would have like mental blocks against certain players, and it's like, well, you've got the same information. You would beat that. You'd win that situation, that specific moment, but because you have this thing in your head that he's like a pro player, it's like there's no way you would expect him to make that mistake. Or it's like he must be like baiting me here. You know, he must know something that I don't know.
Yeah, and that's fascinating, Nathan, because when you think about it, you know how you say you have a lot of clients, Nathan, where, you know, they get to Plat 1, and then as soon as they get near their Diamond 4 promos, or they get into their Diamond 4 promos, they just completely shit the bed.
That's right, yeah.
And let's get more specific.
Promotion series are the bane of everyone's existence.
Well, they're the perfect... That's the perfect example, isn't it, Nathan?
What, the promotion series?
Where people just completely change the way they play as soon as they get into a promotion series.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's get more specific then. Let's talk about why you think that would be the case. Well, tying into this theory, I would say most people, the way they're perceiving information or the way they're processing information is completely different. The way they're processing variables, the amount of variables they're processing, is just completely gone out the window. Right? It's completely
what are they thinking about instead? Let me just think about this for a second. They're afraid of, they're thinking about the results of the game. I mean, this is for me, right? So it's like, okay, if I have let's say, this is my example. I failed my master promotion series, you know, one of my first ones, right? You know, a couple of weeks ago, I was trying to hit master, or literally last week or the other week. I had a bad early game in that game, and like, all right, my initial thought is like, all right, this game is probably going to be very hard to win now. Oh, it's all good. I can like win, and I'll still have to win. Like, I only have to win one more game, so it's like all good. But you see how problematic that thought process is? If I'm on 20 LP, I am going to be thinking, well, I mean, like, I'm just going to be thinking about the game. It's like, what's the next best decision given the current information I have? You know? Like, I'm convinced that people play their best actually not even zero LP people terrified, right? Probably 20 to 60 LP bracket. Probably
because
like
there's no
20,
real consequence. Like you're not close to your promos anyway.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not scared of losing, you know? But if you could have that mindset in that 20 to 70 LP bracket all the time, then guess what? Those promo series are not going to mean much to you at all. I mean, they're just going to be like other games.
And this is what, tying back to that snowball, that's the snowball nature of League of Legends, right? Let's break down, okay, why tilt and the mental aspect is such a powerful part of the game, and why most people have, I guess, I would say, a lot of problems with the amount of clarity or the amount of focus. Well, subconsciously or consciously, most players know if I make a mistake at level 1, it's going to bite me in the ass and my game is going to be incredibly difficult. Whether the enemy cat arena snowballs or like I have to blow my flash.
And invade, everyone calls GG. It's like 3 people die, oh GG, dude. And everyone's blaming each other in the chat, right?
Well, and the reason that's the case, Nathan, is because of they know the consequences and they know subconsciously or consciously the snowball nature of the game.
And it'll be easier to just go to the next game, like that's your not laziness, is it survivalist kicking in? It's like I don't have to do this, so why?
It's ego protection.
Yeah, ego protection. That's what it is. Yeah.
And the other element of that, let's just say how snowball oriented the game is. Well, the next thing is you also know that when your team is behind or you die, what else happens? The likelihood of you getting flamed or toxicity occurring also increases. Okay, that's another complete other variable that gives a lot of people ranked anxiety, gives a lot of people fear of failure, that's a whole nother aspect. And then the third one is you're going to go out of that game and you're going to see minus 25 or something. There's an actual number. There's something there.
Terrifying, Curtis. Minus
it
25.
It tells you. It just tells you.
It does. It tells you, yeah.
And
it's on display for everyone in the world as well. Because think about it as well. Let's say if you lose a game, let's say if I'm growing up playing hockey or something like that, right? And I lose a game, like I don't like go to a website and like look at my match history, like I see a big red there and I see like the negative LP and I see all my friends as well at like, they're an extra division ahead of me, so I have to catch up to them. Like you can't really measure your skill in real life sports because there's no ranking system.
Yeah, in a way.
I mean, until you get to the professional level. But think about it, these aren't professional people in gold, silver, bronze, and you're, how we always say, everyone attaches their identity to their ranks. I never attached my identity to the level of a player I was in hockey. I was just like, this is just the team I play on. This is like, I'm just like a 16, 17-year-old kid. Like, I'm obviously not a professional. I wasn't even close to probably like an amateur player, but like, I was just like enjoying playing the game. I wasn't thinking about that. It's like my skill level, Like obviously I wanted to improve and get better, but it's not as the extent of like league.
But if you made a mistake, you probably weren't scared of your teammates just like raging at you, right?
Well, at the end of the day, they're not keyboard warriors in real life because you people are decent in real life, Even if let's say league, right? Just for some reason, everyone was teleported into the same room, right? No one would be, and you get to see everyone's faces. No one would be toxic to each other in the way they are in chat.
Yeah, no way.
Would they?
No.
So it's just different. It's also the online nature of League of Legends as well. It's the online nature of things, So
this, and this all ties back, Nathan, to this is the importance because of all these elements, or like these elements that are specific to League. It's an incredibly anxiety-inducing game. Isn't it? I mean, these variables.
And again, I think about hockey again, dude. I just want to get on the field and play, dude. I didn't care if I was winning or losing. I just wanted to be playing. But for League, people literally don't want to play. How crazy is that?
Yeah, and
I swear to God, there's people that spend more time looking at the ranked, at the the client, and just like hovering around like the crafting and the profile and the match history and the rank, than actually playing the game itself.
And this is why, Nathan, the mental aspect of the game is so incredibly important. And that ties into my theory that every player is at least 2 to 3 divisions below the level they're currently playing at, purely because they're not expressing their best self.
That's right.
That's it. And this is why League is the perfect training grounds, Nathan, for developing mental resilience and learning how to learn. And if you can learn how to learn within League of Legends and control your emotions and become and express your best self in League, you can do anything, man.
The world's your oyster.
Literally. It's so hard. And this guy, Falela, he went on to say how he believes that one of the biggest differences between pro players, the best in the world, and average players is less about in-game ability. He was bringing it to mental clarity, mental APM, the amount of information they can process, and their level of focus. Because he thinks that most players, he said, I'm going to quote this. He said, most people in the world would never be able to go into a game and have the utmost confidence and that they know the matchup, play it out, stock standard, and not really overthink anything. And that also ties into the thing, how when I watch Showmaker, and the best players, when you watch them, they make everything look easy. They're not doing anything weird.
Yeah, I mean, everyone can do that. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got the same mouse potential movement clicks, the same QWER, the same abilities. It's possible.
Yeah. So it's not, and I actually somewhat agree. Yes, I would say there's obviously an element of micro ability, reaction times, their knowledge and game experience, and obviously they're very well. They've seen a lot of situations, whatever it is, and there's but he thinks it's more the mental element of their ability to be able to remain focused for an extended period of time, game in, game out, and play at their best continually is what actually gets them to that level in the first place. Yeah. And he thinks that is a skill in itself. The mental, mental clarity.
If I think that all the times I've climbed very highly in solo queue was all just because I was putting in a lot of effort. And I was managing my teammates. I was collecting information. I mean, think about it, because there's never a time that you're climbing where you're not focused. And we know that. Everyone knows that, but we just don't do it. We're very good at self-sabotaging.
So, Nathan, how we're talking about, for you then, how you said you had some form of a mental block heading into your Master Tier promos, right?
That's right.
So walk me through heading into a game, let's say before anything happens. What would you say is different for you heading into those Master Tier promo games? Be very specific. What's happening in those games comparatively to the games you're just playing normally in, say, like a Diamond 50 LP or something like that, or Master 50.
So that scenario specifically, I had the time constraint against me. I literally had like 2 days before the season ended. So I really didn't want to lose these because I'll be like, it's the time's ticking, right? But going into those games, the games beforehand, it's like I was super confident just my champion mastery with Nunu Hecarim. What I'd started doing is I started overthinking champ select and started thinking, is this a really good Nunu game? Is this a good Hecarim game? And I randomly like, no, this is a good Elise game because I'm against an Ezreal Yumi and I have to dive them. And I didn't have any champion master on Elise, and I just go in and lose that game. But like, if I just have a high percentage chance of winning with Hecarim Nunu, that's like the mental blocks that was what the narratives I was telling myself. It's like I'm gonna win these games. It's like for some reason I don't understand that I can still win because I was winning before against Ezumi with Hecarim. Yes, it's harder to punish them early than Elise, but I could still win. But for some reason, I'm like, well, no, Elise is the better pick here because I have a Pantheon Philo bot lane, which is true. That's very good for diving Ezreal. It's probably one of the best diving 3 champs in the game. But like at the end of the day, you got to do a lot more than those dives to win the game.
Okay, so when you get in the game, what changes?
When I'm like in my master promos or my diamond?
Yeah, you're in your master promos. What changes specifically about your gameplay?
Oh, when I get into the game again, I'm still playing normally, but as the game's going on, I'm thinking about the result of the game.
Okay, so essentially what you're saying is it progressively. So if you get behind, your ability to come up with creative plays is basically diminished.
Well, it's gone because instead of thinking about the creative plays, I'm thinking about, so how does this work for my next game, or how does this work for tomorrow if I fail? All these if scenarios are coming in my head, you know?
What I'm trying to do here, Nathan, I'm trying to tie this back to that initial thing we said, which was if you are tilted, the way you perceive and process the information becomes objectively wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Because you're emotional.
So, okay. Is the problem for you the lack of actually seeing information or the actual processing information? Or is it even fundamental? Like you're literally, because you're not in the right mental state, and you're losing focus, your eyes aren't looking at more information? Or is it the fact that because you're in this weird mental state, the information that comes in goes through a filter and becomes messed up? Similar to that archery analogy where like if you're doing archery and I know the bullseye, let's say I'm doing archery and I can see the bullseye in the distance and it's just extremely clear to me. That's my win condition. That's what I need to do to win the game. And then maybe this smoke comes, there's heat waves, I'm getting this maybe music being played, maybe the target's moving. Is it something getting in the way of seeing the win con? Is the information that you're processing getting altered? Like what? I'm trying to be very specific here, Nathan. Is it the processing? Is the lack of seeing the information, or is it what exactly is it?
I'm not sure. I think I need to think about this more. Honestly, I'm actually not sure. I would say that maybe, I mean, there definitely is an aspect to it of I'm spending mental energy thinking about the result versus how to win the game. I mean, it's as simple as that.
As simple as that.
Like, it's getting ruined in the filter of the processing of the information. Yeah. So it's like I have information and
you do have information, because my hunch from what you said, Nathan, is that you're literally just missing on information because you're not actively scanning for it because you're thinking about some bullshit.
Well, this is where intensity comes into play, Curtis. I'll get the information, but be more like, because like, again, I'm using my mental energy for the result. But if I'm like, not thinking about the result, just how to win the game, like the intensity is higher. So my mental APM is higher.
Right. Interesting. So what do you mean by intensity here? And what does intensity allow you to do better?
Process information better and more quickly.
And what do you mean by better?
Better. So let's say I process something and sometimes I just come up with more options. So it's like I have 3 options versus 1. Make sense?
Okay. So you may look at a situation and look at all the information of the game.
So
you're literally seeing more plays.
Yeah, because I'll see, because this is what happens a lot of the time, right? Because I feel like let's say a fight's breaking out and I need to, let's say these are the options that you usually have, right? Take the fight, don't take the fight and go do something else on the map, or I guess those are really it. I mean, there's a third. I'm certain there's a third, or just like hang around the fight, sort of see what happens, and then you can maybe re-engage, right? When I'm really attached to the result, I'll probably more just be like, the only option is to fight this, and I just need to outplay this, or I need to help my teammates because if they die, it's bad. I guess it's coming from not having confidence in other ways to win the game, and that I have that clarity when I have high intensity because I'm probably spending the last 2 minutes thinking about all my other options as well, again, instead of thinking about the result of the game.
Fascinating.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's interesting because that's actually different to me.
Maybe this is more of a jungle specific thing.
Yeah, it could be role by role. For me, when
fights, those are the same. What are your options when you fight, Curtis? Those are the 3 options, right?
No, what I'm thinking more I'm just thinking more in a situation where you bring it back to that intensity question. Right. Actually, no. Okay, let's answer your question. You said in a fight like that, if I'm not focused,
you just take the fight, right? See how it goes. Yeah.
It's thinking about ways to play the fight. Right. But not going to the fight is not even in there.
Even there, that's right. It's not. And that's where it comes into. Yeah. It's like a fight's happening. I gotta go fight that crab. Because
intensity is different to me, Nathan. Like intensity to me is this. Intensity is actually not okay. There's 2 aspects to it. I literally see less information. With
high intensity.
No, with less intensity. I see less information.
Yeah.
Because I'm not actively scanning for it.
Is this focus? Is intensity focus the same thing here? Or are they very similar? Maybe I'm confusing focus with intensity. But I think they're super tied together.
They are tied. It's interesting. What would? Yeah, I don't know how to articulate the difference between it. Because how can you be intense without being focused?
That's right.
But you can be focused without being intense.
Intense.
It feels like. Can't you?
Can you?
Can you?
I don't know, kid. I don't think you can.
I feel like you can't. Yes, you definitely can't be intense without being focused.
Focus.
Surely not, right? Unless you're like just angry.
Yeah, that's you're angry. I was gonna say, let's say if you have an argument with someone, you're like you're not thinking about what you're saying, so you're not focused. You're like,
no. I think focus is a level of attention, whereas intensity is whereas
attention.
Whereas, because like you're either focused or you're not focused, right? It's either one or the other.
That's right. Yeah.
There's no in between. Because like if you're not absolute focused, you're just not focused.
You're not focused. That's right.
Right. So
yeah.
I don't think there's levels to focus, but there's levels to intensity. I feel like intensity is like you
can see it in their eyes, you know.
Okay, I don't know enough about this. Maybe we leave that to the comments so we can reply that to the next episode.
It's just a constant loop. Like we don't even come up with topics anymore for Broken by Concept. It's just this back and forth conversation in the comment section, just for literally 1,000 episodes. And then like by episode number 786, Curtis, we're talking about like the existence of like our existence and like the Big Bang and stuff like that.
It's too philosophical. We're like, we turn into like some physics channel or some shit.
We change our podcast.
Yeah, what I was saying was for me, right? I know this for a fact. If I see the enemy jungle topside, when I'm really intense, I will I'll press tab, assess itemization, pan my camera, assess the HP values, assess the objectives on the map, and use those bits of information to create something new or alter my decisions. But when I'm not really intense, I will maybe either one or two things. I either won't see it at all and won't process it, or I will surface level process it to a different level, different intensity, where maybe I only look at his location, but not his resources and not what objectives are on the map.
It also gives you direction, right?
This also ties into League's an information-based game. And like I said, there's two aspects of information, using information. There's the seeing of the information, and then there's the processing of the information, or the way you use that information. And for me, when I'm not if I'm not intense, the amount of things I can do with the information is lessened. So I can be focused and see information and shit like that. But if I'm not super, super intense, the opportunities I see, it's like you options. It's like what you said before. You can see more opportunities with the information presented to you. It's the exact same thing.
Not opportunities, options.
Yeah, options. Yeah,
it might not be an opportunity. It might
not be an opportunity.
Yeah, that's right.
Sometimes you're just like, oh, okay, I just have to continue what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
like just farming or minimizing whatever it is.
Yeah,
and this just ties into what Philela said, man. It's like this is why having clarity while playing League and not being clouded, not letting your decision making be clouded or your ability to process information be clouded or altered in any way. Yeah, it's kind of like I would go to the extent and say that being in a bad mental state or being tilted is similar to like being on drugs in an altered state of consciousness, where you're not seeing things. Comparison. Yeah, you're not seeing things as clearly.
Yeah,
it's similar to that. That's the only way I can actually articulate it.
I think it's the only way you need to articulate it.
Anyway. Is there anything else you wanted to riff on there, Nathan, or do you reckon we should pack it up? Next one.
Yep, let's pack it up there. And then we can revisit it if we need to, based on what our loyal BBC listeners have to say about it.
Yep. So you want to talk about Season 11, pre-season?
Season 11. I love being on OS, Curtis, because we get to be where the first test dummies. That's the advantage we have on OS.
It's the only advantage.
That's the only advantage. It's not obviously our solo queue's not, too hot, and our server population's, what is there, like 35 people on our server, I think. But
35. Something like that.
Because I noticed in your Twitch chat yesterday, you're streaming because you stream thing. Everyone was asking, is this live, Curtis? Is this live? It's like a big deal because they couldn't play it yet,
Yeah.
Oh man. it's exciting to relearn the game. Learn like, well, how are you feeling? You've played like 40 games in the last 48 hours.
I've played a lot of games, and I felt incredibly overwhelmed.
Still now, or like yesterday, in like your first 24 hours? Are you still overwhelmed? I'm
somewhat still overwhelmed.
Really?
I'm still finding out so many new things.
Yeah.
And I was actually, I briefly had this conversation actually with Sybil Nathan. Sybil's like an ex-friend. He used to play on Direwolves with us. He's a great guy. Pro player, ex-pro player. I think he's still pro.
Yeah, he's ranked 13 on solo queue, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Great player, great guy. And we had the conversation about why is it so overwhelming? Why does it feel like we're literally learning a new game? And we got into the discussion. We're talking about how it's fascinating how much we think about, whether consciously or even just tacitly, think about the way items dictate like a champion's capabilities. So when you press tab on the previous patch, and yes, you may not know all the intricacies of all the itemization and all the champions in the game, but you have a rough idea, a pretty solid idea about what that item means for that champion, how that's going to alter the way they play fights, given how strong they're going to be, and what you need to do in order to roughly deal with them. Now, when you press tab,
no idea. Which was like, you're trying to figure out, what does that do? What does that do? What does that do?
Okay, even if you can read it, it doesn't connect.
Yeah, it's not as quickly. It's not as quick.
It's not connecting because it's like the information has to connect with a feeling. Remember?
Yeah,
that's why
it's again through experience, because it's like, okay, I understand what a 25 stacks of Magi's Hextech Katarina will do to me, but now it's like, okay, she's got those. She looks pretty strong, but you don't exactly know damage limits, it's like you're not used to like these new items. I was watching a stream today of Kled, because Kled, I think he's busted with that item that like, what's it called, the mythic item that like does damage in like a circle. It's like a cleave thing, and people like, they just don't understand his damage at all. It's like he does so much damage, they just can't compute how much damage he does.
There's that one item, I think it's called, let me get the items up on my computer.
Divine Spectre, I think it is.
This is one that I think is very interesting. I believe it's called Eclipse. Have you seen Eclipse?
Eclipse. Is that an AP or an AD one?
It's an AD one. It gives attack damage, lethality, and omnivamp. Okay. And this one's caught me off guard quite a few times. And I'll read it out. Hitting a champion with 2 separate attacks or abilities within 1.5 seconds deals an additional 8% max health physical damage, grants you 30% movement speed, and gives you a shield, 150 plus 40% bonus attack damage, and 100 plus 30% bonus attack damage for ranged champions. And it gives you a shield for 2 seconds, and it has a 6-second cooldown for melees and 12 seconds for ranged champions.
So then there's a shield you have to account for.
So it gives it gives the person a shield, percent max health damage, and movement speed.
How many times is someone not going to account for that in a skirmish and die because of that?
Yeah, it's caught me off guard so many times when I see that item in like a random skirmish. So yeah, what I'm saying is that our whole perception of how strong another champion is and what their capabilities are is just completely gone.
My first couple of games, it felt so slow and like sluggish because I'm trying to figure out the shop. That's the other thing as well. The shop, like, I don't know if I just took it for granted. We were having a conversation yesterday about, we didn't even know, I can't even remember how specifically I navigated the shop. It just happened because I was muscle memory. But now I have to like find where the boots are. I couldn't even find where control wards were for the longest time and realized they're actually on the tab. I couldn't find sweeper trinket. I couldn't even find that the jungle item actually. For Eve, the jungle item's not recommended. I had to literally search. I think I typed in jungle item and it came up.
Wait, no, the starting jungle item?
Huh? The starting jungle item doesn't come up.
What?
For Eve. No. So I'm literally thinking, if you're a newcomer and you're trying to play Eve jungle, dude, you're not going to get your jungle item. You have to go into the fighter section of the tab to get it.
No, you don't. What's recommended then?
I can't remember, but it's not. It's not the jungle item.
What the hell?
So I'm sitting there trying to figure all this stuff out, and it's
It's
But
fun,
you know
though.
what? It's
It's fun.
It's fun. That's right. And you know, I think that I'm liking it. Like, obviously, there's the aspect of it where I'm like, okay, this is annoying because like I have to learn all this, but it's like, yeah, I guess maybe it's fun because it's just a new thing, and maybe once we figure things out, the game's actually just broken and Rad's fuck something up. But I think that I like the idea. I mean, they're sort of simplifying things in a way as well. One mythic item. It's like everyone just builds one mythic item. Because before it was a little bit more complicated. Think about Curtis. How do you know the difference in strength between Triforce and Sterax? You know? So I'm thinking about it a bit more. And it's like it's pretty simple, isn't it? It's like mythics are big items you can only build one of. Legendaries. Is it legendaries in the next one?
Yeah, legendaries
are just basic full items that you can build multiple of, and epics are just components. Like, isn't it simple? I think it's the other way around where it was super complex, because you said that you think that this added extra complexity to the game, which it does. Like all this shield stuff and what was the one that makes you dash through things? You know, yes, that's added Gale Force. That's the one. There's added complexity, but like I like it in a way because it's simplifying things. Well, that aspect of it at least. I don't know about. I mean, they must have done research about the shop, about the way people click and stuff like that. I mean, I'll be surprised if they didn't do that as a billion-dollar company. But I can see it feeling pretty good soon, given some time.
Well, one thing, Nathan, I think more now than ever, you have to understand itemization. I don't believe that we're in now the game has evolved to a point where...
Yeah, I would say itemization is really
important. You really have to understand items. And the thing is with items now is that your build's going to be different every game. The reality of it is.
So that's good. I think that's really good. I hate cookie cutter builds. That's literally the only thing you don't have to think about it, you know?
Yeah, and so that in that sense, it is more complex. But like you said, I would say that in terms of compartmentalizing the items, I do think that adds a little bit it makes it a little bit more intuitive. But the thing that I think they should have made clearer, I mean, maybe not. I think it's a bait for every champion to rush a mythic. I don't even think rushing a mythic is even viable.
The conversation's been around that. So what's the thought process around that, Curtis?
Well, okay, there's two things. Some champions just don't really benefit that much from any of the mythics.
Some of them, got it. That could be the case. Absolutely.
Then on top of that, it feels like you think about the mythic passive, you only get value from the mythic passive for every other legendary item that you have. So getting a first item doesn't give you anything.
Got it.
So rushing it doesn't make sense.
I definitely think. I mean,
for some champions.
Oh, I was playing Eve, and rushing Ludens just doesn't feel right, honestly.
Really? Doesn't feel right?
Yeah, I don't think it does. I think it's Lichbane into Ludens.
Oh, I rushed Lichbane on Fizz today.
And then you got your mythic item straight after, or did you put another legendary?
I didn't even get a mythic.
Oh, really?
I didn't even get a mythic item. I'm just trying it out. Because I feel like Lichbane is one of the strongest AP items that I've tried so far.
Yeah.
But and it feels good. And I'm like, well, Rocket Belt, because Rocket Belt's
Proto Belt, right?
Yeah, Rocket Belt's Proto Belt, but it just doesn't feel, and the components to buy it just doesn't feel that good. I don't know, just a feeling I get. I mean, I don't know. Yes, the active on it is better against champions, but it just doesn't feel as good. But anyway, I want this to be less about items, but more about like the theory behind it. I mean, it kind of ties into exactly what I said in my preseason video. They're loading the game with damage and a lot of utility, a lot of crazy stuff, and then they're going to tone it back a little bit. And I like the way. I'd rather them do it this way.
I mean, as you say, that goes literally link me the jungle win rates of the last 24 hours. Literally, Zach, Mundo, Skarner, Ivan,
something like that. But isn't this good, Nathan? Isn't this a better way to go about it? Because imagine if you're a pro player and you start the split starts in January, right?
That's right.
January.
Yep, January.
Around January,
that's when pro season starts.
If they were adding these, imagine if they just randomly added an item.
Oh, there's no
way. Like Gale Force in December. They can't do that.
No, you couldn't. Yeah, that's why you wait for the preseason.
But even if they added these items, Nathan, like these crazy items, say they weren't sure, and maybe they were going to do it like, say that they they wanted to start off weak and then add in strength. It doesn't work because if you just randomly add like this unique passive in the game.
Yeah, okay. So you're saying you then need to go all in, all out, like what they've done here, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Go all in first, because then if you add in something crazy and like in February when the split's already started, it can completely fuck the competitive meta.
Of course, yeah.
So I think for the sake of pro players in the competitive games, you have to do what they're doing now. Yes, it's a little bit crazy, but it's fun. The way I mean, it's just fun. Like learning the game again, experimenting. And I feel like one thing I'm having fun with, Nathan, is that I feel like sometimes the actual identity of champions are going to shift. Some champions are going to be less burst or less sustained damage and more burst oriented. Some of them are going to be less sustained damage and more burst oriented. Like I think now, like because of, for example, a quick example, something like Orianna. I mean, Archangel's completely shifted, and yes, Leandri's is a good item, but it feels like Luden's feels amazing on Orianna at the moment. So I think that like maybe a lot of people are going to be viewing Orianna less of a sustained damage and more of a burst oriented. I mean, that's what I love about this. You have to really think about your champion's identity and the way you want to play it.
I love it. I mean, it makes one trick in more attractive, I guess, doesn't it? Because you can be way more diverse in the way that you play your champion.
And I do think there are a lot of good options, actually. They added an MR equivalent of Seekers.
I like that a lot.
I like that. I think that actually allows, I mean, it protects blind picking certain mids as well. Like if you were to play, like, say, Cassio back in the day, like Cassio and get countered like a Syndra or a Victor or something like that.
Like how you say back in the day, it's like last week if you did that.
Last week, you're kind of screwed. You don't have any option to buy an MR item. Yes, you can get Abyssal Mask, but at the end of the day, you're committing yourself to this entire, item that doesn't even give you resist. It doesn't even give you AP. But now you can go this item, gives you AP and it gives you MR, and it builds into a decent item rather than just sitting on like a null magic mantle and then one null magic mantle into a Banshees.
Yeah, I mean, I hated that Seekers was just such a core thing. It's like, against an AD champions, we're gonna go Seekers.
Mm-hmm. But is there anything right now in terms of like, I mean, I know you haven't really played that much, Nathan, but I
love the whole concept of this is that you get one little jungle component and then you just build in normal items like everyone else. I love that. I think it's excellent. I think that they've really hit the nail on the head on that one. I think that jungle, I mean, it felt so weird. It's like, dude, I'm building a normal item like everyone else at the same time versus like, I mean, obviously you could view like your jungle item as a normal item, but it really wasn't, at the end of the day, because you had to have the red smite, blue smite thing, and that sort of stuff. And I love it. I think it's awesome. And you know what? I mean, I'm always like a tank jungler guy. I think this really helps tank junglers because at the end of the day, you're not versing a Lee Sin with red smite, dude, like literally invading you like level 4, 5, 6.
So which way do you think the meta is going to be heading? Just initial thoughts.
I think anything I say is literally pointless, honestly. I have zero idea. There's some aspect of it where like you can be more of a scale. You're going to scale way quicker because you can build in more items now as a jungler. So that's why tanks can get tanky really quickly now because they're building proper items.
But doesn't this mean, so Nathan, one thing, I mean, I haven't thought about this, you're just throwing it out there. You know how AP junglers felt strong because of runic?
Oh, and AP junglers are really fucked now because ability haste, because they didn't cooldown reduction. It's hard to get ability haste cooldown reduction now. It's not as easy.
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
AP junglers
struggle
big
a little
time.
Bit more?
I think so. I think it's going to be very interesting for AP junglers. I definitely think so. We'll see. There's going to be someone's going to come up with some build that makes it work, but right now it's not looking too hot. I'll be honest.
What
it's
about
like either
Eve?
AD junglers or tanks. Eve, the Lich Bane, there's potential there, dude. The Lich Bane feels nice, man. But again, it's like if I'm playing Eve into like a Zac and he's got Spirit Visage by literally like 12 minutes, dude, just get me out,
Interesting. Yeah, so I mean, I'm spamming games at the moment, trying to figure it all out. I like you, I don't really have an idea about where the meta can go. And one thing, I had an interesting discussion with people in the Discord today, and they were talking about how the terms like overpowered and ridiculous and like all these terms that people
you're going to be hearing this in the next 2 months. Just every conversation. This item's OP. This item sucks. This champ
means
sucks.
Nothing now. It means nothing now.
That's right.
And I think
everyone's trying to figure it out. Everyone's trying to learn. No one has an answer.
But yes, we are in an incredibly burst-oriented meta, and there are some unique interactions.
Wait, Curtis, how do you know that?
I believe we're in a burst-oriented meta because of how
there's a dust plague and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I would say how effective a lot of the lethality.
But Curtis, maybe that's just weighed out. Maybe they've got the perfect balance. It's like, well, then tanks are all good, you know?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Burst, you're going to one-shot. I mean, maybe it's more fragile with squishy into squishy, but maybe every comp needs tanks now. You know,
maybe, yeah. What I'm getting at, Nathan, is that there are going to be some interactions in the game that you're not going to be able to foresee coming, and you're like, "Oh, what the hell? That's stupid! I just got one shot." Or why is he invisible now? Whatever. But you would have said the same thing back in the day when like Zonya's just came out.
Yeah,
imagine if Zonya's wasn't a thing, and or like
in targetable for like 2 seconds? 2 seconds,
yeah, something like that. Yeah. You know, we would have said the exact same thing, but people need to calm down, relax.
Still, it'll be fun. I have good feelings right now. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I'll keep listeners updated, and we'll share our thoughts, both of us, on the meta as we play more. But yeah, I'm going to do a video soon on my thoughts on where I think everything's heading. But I just want to keep playing games. There is one little thing I wanted to touch on, Nathan, just a small one. I just kind of wanted to share one of my findings from this poker book that I'm reading from this poker coach. And it's kind of been a pretty big breakthrough on the way I think I'm going to coach from now on. And it's actually kind of contextualized things for me. The theory is everywhere. Okay, think of your level of play in a bell curve. In the middle of the bell curve, you have your level of play, or the level of play that you'll do the most of, or the level of play you if you were to play the highest frequency of games you play will be in the middle, which would mean that this is like your average level of play essentially. And on the right hand side, you have the outlier of playing above your level, or maybe playing, maybe some of those games where you play or you start to implement things that aren't really a habit yet, but you've just learned something off maybe one of my videos or one of Nathan's videos, and you just started to implement on it, and you had a really great game. So it's not your level of play. Maybe you do this 1 in every 10 games, 1 every 20 games, but it's in your wheelhouse. And then on the bottom end of the bell curve, you have the lowest level of play. And this is you playing below your level. You make some very basic mistakes, and it's not representative of your current, your average level of play. Now, if you were to think of your improvement like this, there's 2 ways to improve and shift the curve over. It would be to either increase your strengths, right? So learn new things about the game and actually direct your attention on making the new aspects of your game muscle memory. Or you could also shift your level of play, or increase your level of play and overall level of play by decreasing the likelihood of making mistakes, decreasing the likelihood of making those basic errors, and moving basically getting rid of weaknesses. Now, it ties into my theory that at lower levels of play, like if you're like in gold, silver, things like that, rather than learning new things or trying to like do some fancy things or like try to learn crazy new concepts, you get more results and become a better player by actually refining your core weaknesses.
Okay, let's say a super simple example here, Curtis. This is why I have your first jungle clear the early game, right? Someone comes on my show, they're not clearing that, they're literally 20, 30 seconds behind their camps. There is no reason to be learning anything new, no macro things, no champion pool things, nothing. You need to make sure this clear is perfect first before you move on to anything else. Super simple. You're at a huge disadvantage already for no reason.
And that will give that person way more consistent results.
They have way more options. They can gank, they can counter gank. They're not going to be low health in the jungle, so they can actually gank after. Super simple. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I think. Going back to the League of Legends being a winners and losers game, right? You don't want to be the one that's fucking up. Because if you're the one that's fucking up and making basic mistakes, like trying to engage in a fight 30% health because you're literally just leaving your jungle camps.
Clarify the winners game and losers game, Nathan, for those of you who maybe didn't tune into that podcast or maybe they didn't.
So this is what we got from, it was like an investing article about the way tennis is described. And tennis is either a winners and losers game. And the losers game is essentially, so why it's a winners game is that at the highest level, so basically at amateur is still a winners game, I think it said in tennis, but anything below amateur in tennis, all you're waiting is for your opposition to mess up. It's like whoever messes up first, right? But in terms of the highest level, it's a winner's game at the highest level of tennis, because you actually need, if you just sit there just whacking the ball back and forth, no one's going to win, right? Because no one's going to make a basic mistake like miss the ball when there's not, they're not thinking about ways to literally win the game. It's like, I'm going to hit the ball this direction. So then they're going to have to run here. Then my next shot's going to be on the side of the court. That's like a winner's game type thing. It's like for league rotations or something like that, right? But the loser's game aspect is like, for example, for league, it's like, again, just not clearing your camps quick enough so you're not actually even onto that play in the first place, or you're just taking a really bad fight that a high level player wouldn't take.
So essentially what you're saying is that a loser's game is in low levels of play, whether it's in league or in tennis.
Just waiting for someone to fuck up and you just capitalize on it.
Yeah, if you just do all the basic fundamental things correct, you will just eventually win the game. Yeah. Because people will just make mistakes, they'll overforce, they'll just do some crazy things, making a very inefficient roam, whatever it is, and they'll lose the game themselves. Whereas in high-low,
you have to make proactive plays that they're going to throw the enemy off their game. That you need to make them mess up their fundamentals, because they're going to have to think about other things. Because our brains can only think about, I think it's like about 4 or 5 things at once. So essentially, you're trying to throw in something there, so then one of those drop off. Does that make sense, Curtis? So let's say you've got like 5 things, which are the fundamentals. It's like CS in, trade in, I don't know, for example, right? Or trade in, or like even like we're getting ready to flash or something like that, yeah? And then suddenly you throw in like a random flash ult you weren't expecting, then suddenly they have forgotten about something else. Like, I don't know, maybe they didn't have their fingers ready to go on, let's say Kindred Q or something like that. So they literally will get hit by that ability. Does that make sense?
So you're saying
you have to throw things unexpected in there, so then people mess up their fundamentals.
Well, yeah, you have to do something that's not just an absolute basic, something that's not an absolute basic fundamental to win, in a way. Yeah, something unexpected, something that they're not considering. Because if you play like that, if you play super safe and play super conservative and just wait for someone to mess up at high elo, they won't do that.
Well, because they're the opposite. They're playing the winner's game against you, so they're messy. You actually can't even play the loser's gameplay style high elo. Simple as that.
Yeah, because you're just reactive at that point.
Yeah,
and you can't afford to be reactive in high elo.
No.
But anyway, this was like yes, it may seem simple, but it felt like a pretty big breakthrough for me, because this was always a hunch that the fundamentals are important. Yes, but it's less. It's not even just about the fundamentals. More about the way to get people reliable results. Because what actually happens if you only focus all of your attention on learning new things and you never prevent the basic mistakes, what actually happens is that your gameplay becomes incredibly inconsistent. So yes, you may have those absolute pop-off games, but you're still going to be making basic mistakes.
Yeah,
so you actually become so frustrated.
People can play the winner's game in certain situations in a game, but then they're still part of the loser's game because they're messing up, fundamental errors.
And that's actually really frustrating for people, because they may be improving in certain aspects, but because they still have these underlying issues with their gameplay, they don't actually improve. And then then they get super frustrated, like, oh, I'm doing everything Coach Curtis says, but then these underlying basic mistakes can literally be as simple as, missing CS, basic incorrect lane positioning, not leaning onto one side of the lane, very basic warding, dying to jungle ganks, missing random, like not timing your ability when the enemy walks up to CS, very basic laning stuff. But yeah, so that was pretty cool.
So you're going to completely change your style of coaching, Curtis?
Oh, I would say it's more adding in a. I mean, it's more.
What are you
making-
doing? You made that whole junk, your mid lane fundamental series. I mean, you understand the importance of fundamentals.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's less about.
At the end of the day, playing at the highest level code is doing all the small things very well consistently.
No, because the reason this is important, Nathan, is because there's some players that are at maybe they're gold, maybe high gold. Before I introduce new concepts, if this player has really bad underlying fundamentals, because maybe they could actually get to that level, Nathan, because they just have they play a champion that's great in solo queue, or maybe they have really good champion mastery, or they're good at other aspects. Maybe their roaming is really good and something like that. But if I don't fix the fundamentals before I teach like roam efficiency and all these other things, then I need to address these fundamental core issues first. And so sometimes I get caught up, Nathan, in thinking that players who reach low plat or high gold, it's a given that their fundamentals are great, but that's actually not the case. So this is kind of solidified for me certain things.
It's like for example, the locked camera player who got to Diamond 4. It's like he's in a lot of stuff, and he went all the way back down to plat 4, and now he's back to Diamond 4 because he had to like relearn the game properly.
And it's a similar thing with one tricks. One tricks go all the way, they might climb, but because their fundamentals are so poor, or they get the way they view the game is so poor, they always drop massively.
That's right. Yeah.
They drop massively.
And well, part of that as well is they lose all confidence in tilt as well, you know? So like they have like an existential crisis.
Yeah.
Which you're like, I'm just so shit at this game. I thought I was good. Bam, I'm just suck. And then I'm every game I'm just waiting to fuck up to lose. I'm ready to lose every game, you know?
By the way, Nathan, this actually reminds me, because you know how like people are obsessed about being a one trick? They feel like being a one trick is like the best way to learn and shit like that. Or like that think it's like the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Like when you played a fighting game, did you want a one trick of like
absolutely, dude? It's fun because then you get to like master and learn it.
Yeah. Like it just got me thinking. I wanted to do the same thing when I played a fighting game. But fighting games are kind of different, right? Because like
I think it's the same, dude. It was League.
I think it's the same.
Yeah. But the thing about League is that you can have that for you don't think so? What makes
think about a fighting game, Nathan? A fighting game.
Yeah, but you'll quit. I'll quit playing a fighting game character because I just can't beat this girl character because she does this one move that I just can't literally counter. I'll try and fight a new champion to counter it. It's the exact same as League, right? Like what happens is why people change champions, Curtis, is because they're like, this champion just bullshit against my champion, which is true. It's like a weakness. It's like, let's say what's Malphite really good into? Zed, right? You'll make a Zed quit Zed by playing Malphite into it.
No, but that's not my point, Nathan. My point is that you can't learn all of the fundamentals with like one champion in League, but you can do that in this fighting game.
That's true. But I think that the reasons don't switch whether someone one tricks or not. I think that's the exact same reasons.
Oh yeah, we're just talking about different points then at that point.
Okay, we're talking about different points, yeah. But you're saying that you can't. But it's the same point, isn't it, Curtis? What's your point?
My point is that you can't learn. Like the reason one tricking in a fighting game is actually it's attractive. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I disagree. But I'm saying that you can learn. You can't learn all. You can actually learn pretty much all the fundamentals.
That's correct. Yes, that's right. Yeah,
you can't.
You can't because at the end of the day, playing a tank Zach versus Nidalee is a two different set of fundamentals.
Exactly. Yep. Spot on.
All right. Should we jump into some questions, Curtis?
Let's do it.
All right. So hopefully this works. Oh no. Here we go. All right. Hey, Nathan and Coach. First off, I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I have a question regarding the end of season that I think would be applicable to a lot of viewers. So I didn't reach my ranked goal this season. It was my first season of League and I wanted to hit gold, but I ended up peaking in mid-silver. I realized a few of my mistakes, for example, playing difficult champs early instead of the standard, Fizz, Annie, Galio. not warring effectively, and having too broad of a champion pool. So these were the mistakes that he found in reflection of his season. But I'm obviously disappointed. To make matters worse, a good friend of mine duoed with his Plat Smurf roommate and reached gold in his first season. I wouldn't say if that person's actually a gold player duoing with a Plat Smurf, but that's another story. So this is David's question here. How do I convert this disappointment into improvement in the preseason? Any advice on focusing on my own player journey rather than comparing to someone else's? Thanks, David. How can I convert this disappointment into improvement in the preseason? Curtis, I think you muted your microphone. No, it's like I think on the. Oh wait, maybe did I mute you accidentally? I can't unmute your guest. The mic isn't connected. Now you're good. Yep. Talk again.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. The hell? How the hell that happened? Anyway,
concerning. That's another story.
I love these sorts of situations because this, I believe, this is the recipe for a very good league player. Because I believe that most players who end up reaching or climbing or getting the best results, they have this direct, like the best form of motivation, in my opinion, is the one where they want to get better than a friend.
Yeah.
That is the most powerful one. I love it. Whenever I hit
that you, like, you know, when I was like ranked 2 challenger, did that motivate you to get better at the game?
I actually can't remember, but I'm just going to assume it was probably a factor. Yeah. But I genuinely can't remember.
Okay.
But in my experience overall across like any other game, if I was with someone and I was playing with someone, I would always want to be better than them. Like if it was in Counter-Strike or whatever game it was with my brother.
Someone that you know. So someone that you know you always want to be better than.
Yeah, like it was kind of like, not like a rivalry, but it was at the same time. I love it. Every friend as well.
It's like every story, it's like if you have like a brother, like every story, like there's so many pro players. That's actually so true because there's so many pro players that were like, they were the younger brother and they were sick of losing to their older brother. So they tried everything they could to try and beat them.
Yep, even in traditional sport.
Traditional sport as well, that's right.
So I think you've got a very good situation. And now there's a healthy way and a non-healthy way of doing it in a way. I mean, I think
jealousy.
It shouldn't. Sorry?
Jealousy, is that the healthy way?
Yeah, jealousy is unhealthy. It's less about
the key word here is comparison. He even says here, any advice on focusing on my own. He knows he needs to focus on his own without comparing to someone else's. He knows that comparison, he feels like it's a bad thing.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is, honestly. It's the way you use the comparison in a way. Because, okay, if you view it in a way with a fixed mindset, it can be incredibly toxic. But if you have a growth mindset, this can be an amazing opportunity. Because the way I view this situation, this is just pure motivation, right? You've got motivation at its purest form right now. If you were to view this with a fixed mindset, this is what it would sound like. Screw this guy. He's like, he is just better than me. He's just got more talent than me. Like, he's just naturally good at games. There's nothing I can do to beat him. Like, just very things that are out of your control. Focus on things that are out of your control, and you don't really think that you're contributing him being better than you to things that can't change. You can't impact them. But if you came in with a growth mindset, you'll be like, all right, cool. This guy's better than me. Let's see where we are in 6 months from now. Okay, cool. He's better than me. He's even higher. He might be a whole division higher than me. He might be gold when I'm silver. He might be plat when I'm gold, whatever it is. Okay, I'm gonna now create a schedule. I'm gonna have a small champion pool. I'm gonna watch Coach Curtis's content, and I'm gonna really hone in and really level up my game now. I'm gonna pay attention in my reviews. I'm gonna do everything I can. Now, notice how it's nothing to do with him. Now you're noticing that he's higher than you, but you're just using it as a form of motivation and bringing it back to things that you need to do. What things do you need to do specifically to get better at the game? That's all your thought pressure should be. What do I need to do to get better at the game? That's it. And if you bring it back to those absolute fundamentals of improvement, playing games in blocks of 3, having a rough schedule, having a small champion pool, champions that are relatively simple, especially when you're in silver. Seems like you already know what to do. The only thing holding you back is yourself not doing it. So I think for me personally, this may hurt some other people, but as long as you come in with a growth mindset, focus on the things that are in your control, I think it's healthy to somewhat compare with him. Use it as motivation. Honestly, use it as motivation. How would you?
I've never been a fan of comparison. I mean, every time I've tried to compare, it's just shot me in the foot. You know, it's like I compare because I guess it's because it's very easy. I think when you compare to go to the negative route that you said, right? It's like, well, why is this guy better than me? It's like you're just wasting your energy. Again, the only thing you need to think about is how do I get better at the game? Look at the fundamentals. Look at the details. Review your games. I think there should be no thought process ready to compare at all. Because I mean, personally, I've never dealt with it well. In terms of disappointment to improvement, I was also incredibly disappointed in my season, finishing Master 0 LP. But the way that I'm framing it is I'm excited for the challenge next season. And disappointed, but like I understood. I mean, I like to think that I have a good idea about, I'm going to try some new things, with like my schedule, the intensity I play at games and the champions that I play and all that sort of stuff. These are the sort of learnings that I'm taking to the next season. They might still not work and I might have another disappointing season, but I'm trying something new. I'm trying something different because what I did do this season didn't work. End of story, So
where you need to direct your attention is all on your effort. Like it should be all around things that you're doing and your effort. Like if you can look yourself in the mirror and say you put in like max amount of effort and you stuck to a schedule, you had a small check, you did all these things, then there's nothing else that you can really, I mean, that's the thing. Like that's what's going to get you the results. And if you still did that and he's still higher ranked than you, then it is what it is. Props to him.
But you feel good because you're putting your maximum amount of effort. That's all that matters. If that was your maximum amount of effort, you'll still feel good. It's like, that's the best I could have done.
But yeah, I think this is where me and Nathan differ though. We do differ with this, Nathan.
I think that I have faith in you, David, that you are going to be higher than him next season. Because guess what? He's not really a gold player. Your friend as well. So you can use that as well. The way he got to gold's not the way you obviously soloed only. So
100%. But one thing, Nathan, to play devil's advocate there, I don't think Michael Jordan would have been Michael Jordan without his brother.
Yeah, I agree. Again,
it's person to person. I think it's person to person though.
Comparing just never worked for me, honestly.
And me and my brother would never have been as good as Counter-Strike as he was if I didn't play Counter-Strike.
That's right. Yeah.
There's certain situations where certain people deal with it well, certain people don't deal with it well. And I don't want to jump to conclusions saying, I don't know whether you do or don't deal with it well. If you feel like you don't, then go Nathan's approach. If you do, then maybe go down my approach.
Obviously, there's aspects of my approach that's the same as yours, Curtis.
Definitely.
Details, but you think comparisons, you could use that as motivation.
Well, it's just like I would connect with it because that would give me energy. That would give me the fire. That would give me fire. Like fuck this guy.
But it just never worked for me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, again, when I was at my best, back, reliving my old days, like I wasn't comparing myself to anyone because I just knew that I would outwork anyone. So there's no one to. I actually wasn't. I was the opposite end. I was like so high ego because I was like, because I was, again, my story is always played video games competitively on NA servers with North American players, and I thought Australian players sucked. So there was no one for me to compare to, because I was like, I'm just going to be the best. And that helped me the most, If I was comparing myself, putting myself on level of the junglers there, then I think I would have improved a lot slower. Does that make sense, Curtis? For me?
Yeah. 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 You just had different experiences.
Yeah. I guess it's just my experiences based off that. All right. So we're happy with David's answer there.
Well, good luck, David.
David. We'll keep us posted on your results.
Keep us posted. I mean, I think you absolutely kill it, man. Yeah, it seems like you're on the right track.
David, guess what? You got Coach Curtis here with his mid lane content. Curtis is gonna help you get there, all right? He's not gonna leave you in the dust. All right, so this one completely screwed up, but let's try and fix this.
Wait, press the backspace, Nathan. The back one.
Back. Oh, there we go. That makes a lot of sense. All right, so I had to write his name on here. So this is my handwriting. I know it doesn't look very professional, guys, but that's all right. So this is from Jovan. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Hello, Nathan and Curtis. Recently, I started to realize I tend to underestimate all of my opponents. For example, I'm playing Ori into Zed, and I let him ult me because I think that he will miss his Qs because he is bad. Players I verse aren't that bad by any means. I'm low platinum. Also, when I solo kill the enemy once, I tend to play more aggressive and I stop thinking about my limits. Same goes with other opponents. I see my jungler solo kill theirs and automatically feel like I can go 1v2 if he ganks. I'd like to hear your opinion on this, as I started to feel like it really hurts my gameplay. If I had to form a question, it would be, do you think it is good or bad to think that you're significantly better than every other player you verse? Thanks in advance. That's literally what I just said. What a good segue. I mean, yeah, I that's the way I got good, is I thought I was significantly better than everyone else, but I wasn't delusional. Like there was points. Okay, I didn't think I was better than everyone else at that point, but I knew I would eventually. That's where my confidence came from, because through my work ethic, my past experiences, and my level of focus and commitment to the game. But this is such a good question, because I also underestimate my opponents as well. Especially when I like playing like Diamond or something like that, I will play less focused because I'm like, I don't need to be pushed. But if I'm playing like my Master tier, you know, in Master, I'm like, I'm trying every millisecond. You know what I mean?
Well, Nathan, you should answer this question. How do you help Jovan here? This is you in a nutshell.
Okay. It comes to intensity. Every millisecond counts in the game. You got it. The game's not over until the Nexus is dead. Keep repeating yourself this year in the game. The game's not over. The game's not over. What's the best decision I can make given the current information that I have? You can't get complacent. You can't get comfortable in a game, because that is where you'll make mistakes.
All right. Well, the way I would approach this, Jovan, what sort of player do you want to be known as? If you were to think of Jovan yourself as a League of Legends player, what do you want to be known as? If you were to visualize Jovan playing at his best, or even if other players were to think of you as a League of Legends player, what do you want to be? How do you want other people to view you? And one of the things that makes a player so incredibly scary are those very intense, hyper competitive people that like are always, you know, stepping on the throat of the enemy, pushing forward, never letting up their guard, doing whatever it takes to win. I think this ties down to a question of, what sort of player do you want to be? And understanding that, what are your goals? You could probably get away with this and sit around plat for a while. You could even probably play like this and get away with it all the way to Diamond 4. But you're not going to get away with it for a long time.
Diamond 1? Like, what's your goal?
What's your goal? Hold yourself to a standard, Jovan. This seems like you're holding yourself to a very low standard, and you're better than that. You're capable of more. And the reason I personally don't do this, I think Nathan does this so much, but I don't understand how it doesn't resonate. Like, it doesn't compute in my brain. It's because I hate the feeling of going or exiting a game knowing that I didn't give it my all. The pain of exiting the game knowing that I didn't do my best trumps winning half-assed or winning in a bad way. So I when I have those painful experiences like you have here, whether you drop your guard or you play over your guess, if you get you whatever it is, what are you saying? How you try to play too aggressive, you disrespect, and then you lose that game. I put such an I make it so painful for me. I'm like, fuck, Curtis, that's pathetic. What are you doing? Is this the sort of player you want to be? Do you want to have this experience again? That's the way I approach it personally. I try to hold myself to a standard that's just higher than that, because I know that if I have this mentality or I hold myself to this standard every single game over the long run, then the chances are I'm going to have some pretty good results.
Yeah, you'll climb 100%.
You know, and that actually ties me to why I got to top 10 in my server. I wasn't even necessarily better than players that I was higher than.
Yep.
There's players that were better than me micro-wise by far. But I was intense and I didn't drop my guard and I stayed focused and I didn't tilt. And that shows. That's how powerful it is. So what sort of player do you want to be, Jovan? You should ask yourself that question.
Love it. All right, next question, Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this is from Terrificator. Hey guys, I wanted to know your opinions on music throughout a game because I love playing music, especially EDM when playing champions like Draven. Obviously a big Tyler 1 fan. I noticed personally that it helps with keeping my chill. For example, when a bad play happens, that I do not overthink it and just stay in the moment and try to look for things to continue the game. But then when I do not play any music, I feel like I'm more focused on the game and have harder time being calm about plays off either myself or my teammates. Thanks for the episodes and effort you guys put into your podcast. Love them. Keep up the good work. All right. I've been really back and forth on the whole music thing. I think that Terrificator here summed it up. For people, why it's good sometimes for people is that like they don't overthink things and it sort of helps them control their emotions. But I think that no music is always, for me, I play my best when I have my game sound is so like not so loud as deafening, but like it helps me focus, as you said, so much more when I'm listening to the game sounds. I'm listening to people's ultimates, cooldowns, their abilities during a fight, even the satisfaction of clearing my camps. You know, it's like for example, Hecarim Qs. I just get into this rhythm. You know, like I want to hear every bit of the game. I want to experience it. And I feel again, just I can't be fully intense if I have music going because at the end of the day, this is the way I view it as well. If you have a specific playlist, your brain's very good at identifying sounds, like through your senses, sounds, smells, with emotions or like a state of mind. If you have a specific playlist that you listen to when you're relaxing, chilling, or like let's say on the bus to your I don't know, your school or to the shops or something like that, your brain, if you've done that a lot with that certain song, your brain will associate. It's like, okay, this is what's happening. This song's playing right now. Now it's time to just like relax. But if you listen to a specific type style of songs and you only do it when you play like Draven or something like that, for example, you only listen to this song when you play Draven, then it could work well for you then, I guess, because then it's like your brain's picking up saying, okay, we're playing Draven here. We need to be super focused, intense, and then that could be good for you. But personally, I can't do that. Music's never been good for me. What about you, Curtis?
Well, my take on music is that it's a band-aid.
It's a band-aid solution. Yeah. I think that's the best way to put it as well. I don't think that long-term it's good.
Yeah, I think music's a band-aid solution for having low mental resilience. And
it's like, yeah, right here, you've listed right here is that this is a problem. You've actually listed a problem right here, Terrificator. And this is literally a band that you literally have said right now that the music helps you do this, but you need to deal with this eventually, you know?
Yeah. I just believe it's a band-aid for not being able to bounce back in a game and maintain focus throughout a game. And I think that this ties to a deeper thing. I mean, I might be reading too much into this, but my theory is with people in music is that people aren't good sitting in silence nowadays. Like
people
we're not good at it. We're not good at it.
That's right.
We're not good at being in silence. We always have to have something, listening, watching something, TV, radio, music, Spotify, YouTube. And I feel like we're not good at it. And then we feel naturally uncomfortable when we don't have music. For some people, they don't feel comfortable without music because they're not used to not having music. They always have to have something. And again, I feel like this can be an absolute, like a big trap people fall into. And I feel like it's not healthy in the long run. Yeah, the other analogy I like to use is you may or may not be familiar with a guy named David Goggins. And he has a theory where he doesn't like to run with music.
Work out with music. Yeah.
Or work out with music. He thinks it's a cop-out.
He literally calls it cheating. He thinks it's cheating.
Yeah. So when you listen to music while running, it allows you to keep your mind preoccupied and distracted. But if you weren't able to play music, it's just you and your mind. But the great thing is the benefits of being able to develop that mental resilience and run without music. It allows you to build so much mental toughness because it's just you and your brain. It's just you and your mind. And I think that if you are really focused, I think this ties into your goals. I think if you're really trying to improve in the long run to become a great League of Legends player, without music would be by far the better decision. But if you're just playing for fun, you're not overly fussed with your result. Maybe you just want, like, you're happy with plat or something like that. Then I think you get away with it. It's not a big deal. This is more like probably like a 2 or 3%er rather than like a 1%er. Or a 5%er. It's not like a massive deal. It's not a really, really small deal, but it's, it's something to consider. That's the way I view it.
All right. Last question here. This is from, I don't know if this is the same Braxius that made our upgraded Broken by Concept logo, but this is from someone called Raxius. Why does a high variance stat like crit chance have a place in League of Legends? In games where RNG is included, like Hearthstone and Warhammer, it's usually something that's interesting to play around, but it's not really feasible to play around. What if my permanent crits 3 times and I don't, or vice versa, is it? So Riot's changed crit a lot in the last couple of years, haven't they? They've made it more consistent. It's like every couple of auto attacks now, isn't it, Curtis?
Don't quote me on this, but I might be wrong. I believe the way crit works is it multiplicative or whatever, something like that. I don't know. But whereas, like, say you have 50% crit and then you don't crit, the chances of it goes higher than 50%.
That's right. Yeah.
Something like that. But at a fundamental level, you're right. Having something like high variance, like crit, is a little bit strange. But I feel like
you need it. Do you need it though? You need it in League because AD carries simply can't do that damage if they don't have crit, Curtis.
I mean, you could just somehow.
So obviously, Riot have. Oh, maybe it is just strange because then you could just literally just have more consistent damage, but
more damage.
But then there's. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, Riot, I still believe in crit because they've literally, like, how there's like that Yone build about 3 crit cloaks and 3 crit cloaks and stuff like that, right? Why does
so does crit exist because doesn't crit exist because it brings a scaling factor into the game? Because if you didn't have crit, how would you introduce scaling into the game?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it basically makes the system easier to build, like easier to bring about a scaling oriented stat, which allows things like 80 carries.
Right? Because you have no attack speed with it, so it sucks, right?
No, I think you the more crit you have, the better it is, or something like that.
Yeah,
I feel like this is a question. I feel like this is a question that I don't think we're equipped to answer. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah,
I'll be honest. I'm just dumbfounded. This is probably one question, Raxius. I genuinely don't. I don't.
So
I've never done game design or anything like that.
So you're confused about why it's even in the game in the first place? Is that the question you can't answer?
I mean, I know nothing about game design, crit.
Yeah, I know.
What its purposes or anything.
What do you feel like you're not qualified to answer? What's the specific question?
Well, if I don't know the purpose of crit, what the purpose of crit in the game is, then how can I say why it's in the game? Why does it have a place? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean,
I don't know.
I've never played all the champions I've always played. I've actually spent 0 time thinking about crit because I don't play any champs that build crit.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So if someone in the comments could answer that question for Raxius, I would greatly appreciate that. So I really don't know how to answer this question.
All right. Well, there we go, Curtis. We met our challenge in the BBC Q&A section.
Raxius beat us. He beat us.
All right. Yeah. All right, Curtis. So that's all the questions we've got for this episode.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Some good discussion. Keen to hear your guys' comments in the YouTube comment section. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I know some of you guys have started to listen to Apple Podcasts because we recently just added it like a couple of weeks ago because it's just been on Spotify. If you can leave a review, a star rating, that's a little perk that we can have on Apple Podcasts. We much appreciate it. We have someone there, I think someone from Canberra, who left a review saying loves the podcast. So if we could get some more reviews, would be much appreciated. So that's all I'm going to ask for the ending of BBC episode number 17.
Cool.
Anything else, Curtis?
That's it, man.
All right. Well, oops. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.